So, first things first. Stephen and Anne. So maybe you can have the first slides. That's you. So, what happened?
Well, we were not born like this.
Really?
We had hair and eyebrows, and honestly, I was kind of like a Burberry girl before.
Okay.
Stephen was also quite different.
Yeah. As we can see. So what was the mood back then?
I think it was just a very conformist mood on my end. I was very afraid to be myself. I was always obsessed with the same things I'm obsessed with now.
Okay.
But I never had the courage to show it.
Yeah, I think for me it was the same thing where I always had the same mind, but my environment and my culture that I was around, it was very oppressive, so I just was so scared to express my authentic truth. But then we did.
So at this stage, you met one another at the fashion school, right?
Yes, we met in Canada where we were learning pattern making, and we really hated each other at first. I was kind of like a goody two-shoes, and Stephen was always late. Stephen was like always asking very, just questions that I'm like, girl, the teacher just answered that, like, why are you asking that? So, and I think Stephen wanted like my notes because he wanted to skip school. So the friendship kind of started out like that. Is it like an echo, or is that just me?
I don't know. You tell us.
It's good.
Oh, it's
okay,
good.
because it sounds like I'm like whoa.
But yeah, and I mean, we essentially connected on our values of wanting change in fashion and wanting to be ourselves. And I think that we even if we came from different backgrounds, we were able to connect together on the same feelings. And that's when we became best friends, and it blossomed into a working relationship, and then also into our personal relationship, which was fun.
So,
Michelle wants details. If you really want the details.
we want the details.
Well, we were like best friends. Stephen had boyfriends, and like a lot of boyfriends. Like you were like a serial killer for boyfriends. Like you just went through one after the other. And I remember one of your boyfriends called you and said, "Why are you always holding Hannah's hand?" And then the next, you broke up with him. And then the next one called, no, you were in bed together or something, and he said, "Stephen, shut up."
Yeah.
And you were like, "Why are you telling me to shut up?" And he said, "All you do is talk about Hannah."
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like, I didn't understand that I could have feelings for a girl, and I didn't think that was possible, but I did, and it was for Hannah, but then at the same time, it was very confusing. But it was confusing for you too, because Hannah was a virgin, and you were never...
So Michelle will know all the details today.
No, I never had a boyfriend, I never had a girlfriend, I never had a partner, I'd never been kissed before, like, very innocent.
Yeah, so I think the whole experience was new for us, and I think that we were scared, and we didn't want to lose each other as best friends, but then it was also not possible to be together, so we just did be together.
So that explains the bond between the two of you, but that does not explain what happened between those two pictures.
I think, we just developed a courage between each other. I think to become this alone is very difficult, but to become this together was an incredible journey. So I think that's where the courage came from, is from being together and having, I was supporting Stephen to wear high heels, and like, if you wear high heels, I still love you, whereas Stephen doing that alone, going back home to see his mom, who's saying like, don't wear that, blah, blah, blah. It's a different thing. So I think having this courage between each other and saying, "Oh, you're so beautiful when you wear makeup," and it's such a different thing than doing it alone. So I think that was such a big strength
Fabulous. So back in the days when you were at Collège La Salle in Montreal, studying design and pattern making, the Burberry girl, what was she designing? And you, Stephen, what were your designs like?
I mean, my designs were the same as this. It was always interested in like alien forms and distorting the body and modifying the body. So there was always these thematics, but at the same time, I was also struggling with how to turn that into reality. So it was always just like a fantasy in my head that would not necessarily be possible in real life.
Yeah, do you want to go to the next page? Oh,
That's
well, yeah, wow. It's a big transformation. Yeah, but if you go to the next page,
there we are.
oh, okay. But there's a page after that. Here we go. So this is actually from Stephen's sketchbook. Before we shaved, before, like, not, like, this is old, very old, I think 2010. So that's, you know,
Beginning.
that's the beginning. I think the courage started from these sketches and fantasizing and imagination. And to be honest, my sketches were horrible.
Really?
Horrible.
Okay.
I was blocked. Like, I couldn't see past what I thought was, you know, being appropriate.
But wait. I mean, you had some really good ideas with recycling and using unconventional materials. That was what to me was still always interesting. So you would make these like 50s dress, like pin-up looks, but then you'd still apply it with like different textures and stuff like that, which was innovative and cool. But I think you were trapped in the schoolgirl society that you were part of.
And I think, Anna, you were concerned about the environmental issues and the impact of fashion to our environment. So maybe you thought too much Burberry around, right?
I don't know. I was when I was 14, I started to research about where clothes are made because I wanted to be a fashion designer, and I saw what was happening in Bangladesh and in Cambodia, and I was so appalled. And I decided I would never buy fast fashion again. And this is me, like 14 years old. Like, obviously, we're all buying from Zara and H&M and all these things, but I told all my friends I'm not doing that anymore, and that's when I learned how to sew. So I guess my journey with fashion was a bit different, not necessarily through sketching.
Not all about looks, it was consciousness and activism in a way.
Yes, very much
at an early stage.
But yeah, Stephen, so this was one of Stephen's projects from school. And so when I saw this, I was like, I have to protect this kid. Because he's so talented and he has a vision, and I'd never seen anything like that. And I was like, I just want to wear those clothes and I want to be in that so badly. And I think we just connected so bad. And so I started bringing like food for Stephen at school, and I started paying for his like supplies and like, because he was really struggling, and so I was really trying to protect him. So
and for me it was like the first time also that somebody thought what I was doing was beautiful, and that kind of helped me go even further in the creation. And that's when we started making our things and wearing it at school.
Wait. You're going too fast. I want to know what was the reaction of your peers and of your teachers back then with your designs.
I think that a lot of people didn't understand. I think that they thought it was maybe too costumey, or maybe they thought it was like, just didn't get it. And I think it was like difficult. But the thing is, at the same time, I was a very good drawer. So they understood I had skill. And they understood the technique was there, because also I was very good at sewing and everything, but I don't think they got what I was actually making, like the results of what I was making. I think it was the same for you, right?
No, yeah, the technicality was always super good, but I think the ideas and stuff they didn't necessarily understand.
All right, so moving on. So these are your first creations, right? So can you tell us about that?
Well, Montreal is a very hard, I'm sure lots of people in this room come from small towns, or, and kind of understand that life. It's really difficult. People don't understand you at home. You know, you go home and no one understands you. You walk outside, no one understands you. Even going to a fashion school, no one understands you. So we knew we had to get the fuck out. So we took the $50 we had and took the Greyhound bus from Montreal to New York City on Halloween, and we just went to an underground club. And we just went there in our outfit, you know, from the bus. And we stayed there all night. So until like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, because we didn't have any money to get a hotel. And the club owner came up to us and was like, hey, like, are you guys okay? Do you have somewhere to go? And we said, no, we have nowhere to go, actually. And he said, oh, well, I live upstairs on top of the nightclub. Why don't you live with me? So we ended up living with him for 6 months to a year. And if anyone's from New York, I'm talking about Spectrum.
Yes.
So if anyone has been to Spectrum, back in 2014, it was kind of like our generation Studio 54. So you had all these crazy club kids, but at the same time, Bjork would come, and that's where Arca started their career, and Hood by Air was there. And
It was basically
The
like
place to be.
It
was a place.
It was like an after party. So it was after the club. So like at 3 a.m. that's when everybody would come. So ultimately, it also attracted like a very hardcore like drug-induced community, which was like intense for us because we were sober at that time. So I think that that's also where we were able to tap into the exciting, fun aspect of that and not maybe the dangerous side of it. So that's when we started kind of like creating clothes from the materials that we would find in the morning at the club.
And so we would love it when it rained in New York, because we would go outside
Get
and we would
umbrellas.
go get all the umbrellas, and we would make these beautiful dresses out of broken umbrellas. Because, you know, technically it's a piece of fabric, you know, if you take it apart, and then you had all these hardware from all the inside. So that's what we would do, and we started getting paid to go to clubs, and I mean, I was underage, so I was getting paid $100 to show up to the club, but I'd have to pay the door $20 to get in, and then we're 2 people, so now this is down to like $30. But it was really fun and exciting, and we
But then
met.
at the same time, it was also the first time that we were getting paid for our visual expression. And that was weird for us, right? I mean, you hated doing that.
Yeah, after a while, yeah.
Because I think prior to this, we were dressing up for ourselves, and it was like our expression. And then now it became like, okay, like a bit of a competition in the club, like how do you get the most amount of attention? How can you wear the biggest outfit and stuff like that? And that's where we felt uncomfortable. But that's when we kind of started understanding there's like a difference between our identity and our image. And that's when we also started kind of like finding a balance with that. And that's when we started DJing, because we were like, we don't want to just come to the club to just look good. We want to also like create an atmosphere. And that's when the DJing started.
Yeah. But what's so amazing about New York is anything is possible. So, we started having a lot of clients, drag queens and all that. Stay on the other page, sorry. Yeah, we started having lots of clients in the New York club scene. People like Age of Aquaria. This is a very old friend of ours who's obviously from Drag Race and all that now. And so many other amazing performers. And what we would do is when the nightclub was finished, we would take stuff, like people leave their sweater or their wig or whatever. So we would also make stuff out of all those leftover things and then like make it into something fabulous and sell it back to the kids. And here, how we got this Vogue Italia photo shoot is we were delivering some dresses for some of the drag queens that were a part of Suzanne Barsh's Stephen Klein spread. And Suzanne saw us. And she was like, oh my God, you can't leave, like you're too fabulous, like come, get on set. And Patty Wilson was a stylist, and she was like, oh my God, you guys are great, like you don't need any designer clothes, just wear what you're wearing. And I don't know, it was just that's so New York, so.
It is.
Yeah.
So Vogue Italia.
Very Vogue Italia, yeah.
So how old were you in the picture?
How old was this must have
You were
been
probably 19.
18, 19. Yeah.
Fabulous. So you start entering the business for real. That's first door that opened of legitimate fashion spreads.
But then there's also another story with this shoot, because when it got printed in the magazine, we were wearing, there's like 4 looks over here, that's 5 looks, that's Fecal Matter, but they didn't want to credit it in Vogue Italia. Because they
and
said,
Patty Wilson was also, I think, she was really like embarrassed because she really loved the clothing, and she's like, I'm so sorry, but they won't put Fecal Matter next to Givenchy. Givenchy cannot be next to Fecal Matter. So that's where we realized, okay, we're gonna have a little bit of trouble with this name, but we kept fighting.
Okay.
So if you go to the next page, is when we went to Paris for the first time.
Okay, so here's Paris.
Yeah, here, oh, baby Hannah. So we came to Paris for the first time to do our first fashion show. And we decided our first show is going to be called Réplique.
All right.
And what we were going to do is sneak into all the best shows, and we're going to replicate one of the looks and take it for our own show. So if you go to the next page. Oh, well, this was the invite. So we snuck into the Dior show, and we took the invitations from like the seats, because people just like left it there after the show was done, and then we scribbled it out and we put our own information for our own guests. So if you go to the next, so this is what we do. So this was like a Hood by Air look, but then we remade it in ourselves. If you go to the next page, this is like Gucci but remade our version. Blah blah blah. So you could just kind of keep going through whatever.
So again, it's a process of analyzing what's identity and replicate.
Yes.
So,
because at that time specifically, this was like 2015, there was like a lot of more social media happening with like Instagram, and a lot of young designers, they were starting to show their work, and a lot of students were showing their work. And this is when some designers were starting to get inspiration from these students' work on social media. So there's this weird battle between like established designers taking inspiration from these students. So we want to do the opposite, where it was like students taking inspiration from big brands and basically replicating it. So that was the concept behind it, which was around image and around all of these subjects of identity and ownership and that.
So can we share about social media? How did you engage with your community? How did you build it?
I think us going on Instagram and social media was a way to survive, because again, no one understood us. So going on Instagram was a way to connect with people from around the world that maybe understood it or were interested or had an open mind. So it was really like a desperation to just connect with something or someone.
Well, this is what social media has.
Yeah, that's what it is. But I mean, back in, I don't know, 2014, like people weren't necessarily using it like that yet within our community. So
social media at the time, it was really, it was like the Kardashians and, this type of lifestyle of like bikini shots, and, there wasn't like influencers, but it was a very specific, wide range commercial way of doing it. And there wasn't a lot of platforms for niche, interesting, diverse people. So for us, it was like when we started, it was like, sort of, there was no community to really build or to be part of. So it was just like the few things we were doing. So that's when we just started filming ourselves and filming our everyday life and capturing, kind of the essence of who we are. And that's when I think a lot of people saw the freedom within what we were doing, and they wanted to experience that also. And we were very open to connect with everyone and talking and messaging, and that's when we started building relationships digitally. And I think we started traveling a little bit, and that's where we started connecting with all these people in real life.
So you've mentioned to me that connecting directly with your community was something really important for you, and you've done that's different from other people who have just a platform. They don't go meeting their fans. Can we talk about censorship? Dressing up like you do on a daily basis, how, especially on social media, how did you have to encounter censorship for some of the pictures that you have showcased in your platforms?
I mean, yes. What we do basically is fighting censorship in every single way. So I think, yeah, we've encountered censorship on so many levels. From, you know, the worst thing is when you censor yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That is like the biggest sin. So I try to do everything to not get there. But Instagram, yeah, they, of course, I mean, I'm sure, look at these kids in the front, they've experienced it too, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of what we do play with nudity, we play with subject violence, and, you know, there's a lot of subjects that we play with that, you know, gets taken down. Even though it's artful, even though there's expression, even if it's fashionable or whatever, there's not a lot of space for that in social media. And there was definitely moments where we were questioning, like, how do we navigate that? But in the end, I think that for us, it's important to still do it and to still be it. It's the vision, it's the ideas that we have, and we're willing to get deleted and start all over again if that's what it takes. You know what I mean?
All right. Next slide, please. So, wow, Nick Knight,
Yes.
recognition. Tell us all about it.
I mean, Nick is like a genius, and we've always been such big fans of his work, you know, first and foremost. He worked with McQueen and so many incredible creators, and really, I don't know, he's just somebody who gets it. And so when we actually reached out to him, we said, hey, like, we're in London, you wanna like meet? So we met him, and he was like, why did you want to meet? And we just said, no, we just wanted to meet you. Like, we love your work and what you do, and Show Studio and everything he does there. And it was a year later that he reached out to do this photo shoot for Chaos magazine. And he basically just said, come and be yourself, come and be you. So we made our dresses, and everything here you see we made ourselves. And there's another slide of it. Yeah, so what's crazy is this is 2017, and this is what proves a good photographer. These images still stand the test of time.
Absolutely. And
We've done so many photo shoots, and they've never lived up to this, because it's just he's so incredible. And I think it shows Fecal Matter in a very pure form.
Yes, we can. Next slide.
And then I guess for us, Instagram became a way to express ourselves in what was happening, you know, in our personal life, whether it was, you know, dealing with gender dysmorphia or not knowing, you know, the future, what's going to happen, and I don't know, so many topics that were going on in our life, our fears.
So we basically every week we would just take what we were going through and express it through imagery. And I think that's the hard part with social media, because I said like every week, because that's how much you have to do to like keep up with the speed of social media, because you can create something amazing and then people will see it, and then in a couple days they'll forget about it, or people will see it and in a couple hours copy it and redo it in their way. And that was something that we were like very, I guess it was difficult for us to like keep up, but at the same time it was kind of survival, because we were, once again, after Nick Knight and everything, we still had to go back to Montreal, and we still had to figure out how we're going to survive and live and everything. So we were still in some ways confined in the spaces that we were. So social media was still like an outlet for us to express ourselves and feel free, and that's where these images kind of just came from.
I think there's a couple of things,
Yeah, can we talk about for you, your perspective upon human identity, because that's something you question. So what are your views about our state and future as humankind?
You want to answer that?
I mean, for us, we're really interested in the idea of what it means to be human and redefining that. And for us, I think because growing up and our experiences, we always felt like the other. We always felt like we didn't belong in the spaces that we existed in. So in many ways, I think we just felt like we didn't belong within the human race. So we wanted to create just our own space outside of that. And I think we did, and I think we have. And in many ways, through that journey, we've actually learned more about what it means to be human through that. And that's for us what that's what it means to be human, is to actually be able to think outside of your limits and your boundaries. I think we're a lot more powerful than we are as a human race. But I think that in many ways, on the other side, people look at us as, you know, different and like we don't belong, and they don't connect with us a lot of times. A lot of the fashion world, a lot of the art world thinks we're too extreme, or they don't see us as human actually. So in a lot of ways, I think we're always trying to navigate that, but in the end, I think that's what's exciting about us is this idea that you don't have to just be your form. You can create something outside of that. You can expand it, you could distort it. And maybe because we're part of like the digital age with, you know, Photoshop for me and all that, I was always able to stretch things out and morph things. That's how I also apply my life. That's when I look in the mirror, I morph stuff. I distort things. I don't just look at it and I'm like, oh, this is what I am and this is all I have. I see more to it. And I think that's our perspective of humanity.
And I think what's so important in your work is that we see the footwear that you've created that look like prosthetics that are actually made of latex and trompe-l'oeil. So you question the boundaries between reality and virtuality, which is so contemporary.
Because actually, I mean, this was our first, this is when Vogue did an article about us, and it went kind of everywhere, but the shoes were actually photoshopped. It wasn't real at that time, and it was just this idea that we were doing, and we were just photoshopping our bodies and creating that. And if you go to the next slide, that's when they became real, and that was our first time presenting the skin boots, and that was kind of where our journey and our quest as artists and fashion designers really started, I think, in trying to kind of distort the body, but in real life and not just digitally, and try to try to apply the freedom that we had digitally into real life. And that's still a challenge today, to be honest, because you have a lot of freedom, you know, especially with AI and everything, you can do so much. And, you know, we're all just made out of like flesh and bones, but we're trying.
Yeah, here are the actual boots that you made.
Yes.
After have photoshopped them for the Vogue editorial. So can you tell us about that project?
Well, actually, the silicone artist who helped us bring it to life, she just commented in the comments of one of our posts saying I could make that real.
Oh, fab.
And so we reached out and said, oh, where do you live? Let's do it. How much is it going to cost me? So we went to LA. And we spent some time there, and we, you know, developed prototypes, and, you know, I had to stand for hours doing moldings, and she really engineered, because, you know, it's one thing to make this, it's another thing I can walk and not like trip over and it breaks, you know.
But we all have amazing shoes, right?
I know, but this is something else. Like, it's made out of silicone, it has to look like a foot, you don't want to have it too bulky.
The balance.
All of this, so she really engineered it to be functional, which is amazing, and you know, she replicated the varicose veins I have, like it's spot on. So the technicality was like out of 10, and a lot of museums purchased them. Michelle wore them for a photo shoot. You know, I had a lot of celebrities ask for them, and I've never given them out, apart from to Michelle. You know, but it's a really powerful piece. It's a powerful piece of work, because you don't understand what is reality anymore when you see it. Is it real? Is it not real? But that's kind of fabulous.
And something that we haven't discussed yet. What is, in your perspective, the relationship between art and fashion?
I mean, to me, fashion is a business.
Okay.
But fashion can also be art, and it can express something. So I think it has to be both. As a fashion designer, you have to survive. You have to sell. You know, even these boots, I made money from them being in a museum, so it's a business, but at the same time, it still expresses something and questions reality, questions what it means to be human. So to me, it has to be both. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think fashion can be anything, really. So it can be art, it could be a business, it could be whatever the person wants it to be. I think for us, fashion is about expression. I think it's about the expression of our identity, and I think we use it for that. But at the same time, as people, we have to survive and we have to live, and that's also where we take it into a business side. And I think it's a difficult balance, because sometimes art is so emotional and it's so about feeling, and then when you add a price tag to it, it kind of destroys it. So it's hard to navigate that. But I think that in the end, for us, it's a balancing act, right? For us.
But all designers have to do that, so.
All of them.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Next slide, please.
Aww.
Oh, here are the kids. We have some here in the room. So you've started developing a quite significant community. So you've mentioned that you were able to connect with them directly. And so here are an example of how people got inspired by your look and expressed themselves. Can you talk more about that?
I think there's like a whole group of us who are really fighting for a particular vision, message, point of view, and all of us, some of them are here today too, we're all fighting for the same thing. And we all do it in our own individual way, which is the most beautiful part. And we're all just fighting for freedom and freedom of expression, and just to be, able to do this without somebody screaming at you from a car window. And so I think we're all...
I mean, when we started, like 10 years ago, we didn't see a lot of people that looked like us. We would, go to parties and they wouldn't even allow us in sometimes. And these were queer parties, like they just didn't understand what we looked like, and they got scared, so they just didn't allow us in. And now to be able to see so many people that we understand and they understand us also, it's like the most beautiful feeling to us, because we started this feeling so isolated, so alone. We only really had each other. And obviously there's amazing references like Lee Bowery and like all of these amazing references we're all part of, but in reality we didn't see anyone in our reality that looked like us. And now to see so many familiar kind of faces that kind of represent the same things as we do, but in their own way, to us it's like a dream come true. It really is. And the idea to think of people when we started and how young we were, that they are brought into a world where this is the norm and this is accessible to them, that's like, I think the most rewarding element to what we've done in our career so far, is to be able to offer an alternative point of view of beauty that people can engage in and see themselves in and live and express it, and kind of find their community within that. So for us, community has been like so interesting, because we started digitally alone in our bedroom, and then now it's like we're in real life and there's so many beautiful people. So it's like a very beautiful aspect, but it's interesting.
And for us, we made Paris Hates Me, which is a party we do, whenever we want really, but we do for just the kids to come out and be able to dress up and feel safe, because in Paris you don't have that. Even when we first moved here, we'd go to parties and like no one was dressed up, and I was like, that makes no sense.
Shame on them.
No, shame on them. I don't know. It was just like I felt like everyone was so suppressed. So Paris Hates Me is really a place to just let your freak flag fly, and just not care what people think.
Could you tell us about your vision of beauty? Because young kids relate to the way you dress up and you makeup. Makeup is a big part of your look. So what is beauty for you?
To me, what's beautiful is to be yourself, and sometimes that means that you don't have to, you don't have to be in makeup to be beautiful. I don't think that, or you don't have to be in an extreme look. I don't know. To me, it doesn't have to necessarily do with makeup. It has to do with just how you hold yourself and that confidence from within that just comes out of your essence. That's beautiful to me.
I mean, when we first started, everyone would ask us that same question, and we always said,
Sorry about that.
No, we love that question. And we would always say that facing your fears is beautiful to us, and that's something that we started with our journey, is we were so scared to look like this. I was so scared to actually put makeup on, to put heels on, to represent all the ideas I have in my head visually outside for people to see. I was terrified. I thought that I'd get killed. I thought that I'd be rejected and alone. And helping each other face our fears was how we actually discovered our inner beauty. And for us, I think that's what's most beautiful, when you see somebody who's facing their fears, somebody who is, whether, it's somebody who is afraid of their body or their gender or whatever, and they actually go for it and they do it. That to me is like the most beautiful thing. And if we could do anything to help people face their fears, that's for us the reward.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Someone is wearing couture. So, that's obviously a Ripple Winds show, right?
Yes.
Tell us all about it.
Well, Rick and Michelle have been very good friends for almost seven or 8 years now. It's been a long time. Rick just kind of like emailed us randomly and said, if you're ever in Paris, me and Michelle would love to have you for dinner. And randomly, you know how the universe works. We were going to be in Paris the next day. So we said, well, we're there next week, like, let's do something. So we went over to their home for dinner. And Michelle always has the best dinner parties. So classy, the food was delicious. And Rick and Michelle, they basically were like, show us all the work you've done. So we showed them everything, all the music we were making, the controversial shows we've been doing, like just everything on all spectrums. And as we were leaving, Rick was like, I really want to help you guys. So yeah, we just kind of continued our friendship, and we did some music for one of his shows, and we were still in Canada, so it was still like distance in that way. But I've been a client of Rick's Clothing's way back for at least 10 years, way long before I met them. So it was just always an honor to be in both of their presence, for sure.
I was, when I was starting to get into design, that was obviously maybe the only brand that I liked, even, to be honest, and I connected with. So for us, it's been amazing to see the possibility to be outspoken about identity and to present something that is alternative but still luxurious and still beautiful. And that gave us hope, actually, as young creators, that it's possible, because there aren't a lot of references, there aren't a lot of people out there in fashion that people like us can connect to. And I remember when we went to one of the stores, it was the first time that we were treated with respect, because we would go to, other stores like, say, Louis Vuitton or whatever, and they would like treat us like garbage, you know what I mean? Even if we had maybe a little bit of money or whatever to spend, they would still treat us like garbage. And when we went to the Rick store, they treated us like clients and people that were valued. And that was a really important experience for us to see that there's actual spaces in fashion, in art, in the world that we belong in. And that gave us hope.
I think it's so powerful that, they own their business. It's not owned by Kering or LVMH. They never sold it to a conglomerate. And that's so powerful.
And rare now.
So rare. And so something to strive for and inspiring. So, to be a part of their world, and especially for the Porterville collection, which was, at their house, it was super, super special for us, for sure.
And intimate. So how did you feel working for Rick? What was going on in your mind?
For me, I felt like, honestly, when I went home and took a shower, I cried. Because it felt like, I've been doing this for 10 years, and and it's sometimes very difficult. You know, this industry is very vicious, and the love and warmth, it just felt like a badge of honor to just be Hannah that day. So it was really nice. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was the same thing. It was, I mean, people did ask us before to walk in shows, and brands have asked us before, offers that we should have taken, but for us, authenticity is really important, and we really value that. And the last thing we'd want to do is look at ourselves in 20 years and be like, why the fuck did we do that? Like,
Why even?
you know what I
This
mean?
picture.
Yeah. So for us, it was like we never did that. But when Rick asked us, and I think it felt right, and it felt like also like a part of a world that we want to be part of versus a world that we want to be part of because of some type of ulterior motive. It felt real and authentic. And yeah, so for us, I think it just felt like real. It was a real moment for us.
Good, fabulous. Next slide, please.
So I'll tell you a funny story. So when Rick
Oh,
asked
funny
me,
stories.
when Rick he emails, and also when Rick emails, he only writes in capital letters. So whenever I open it, it just seems like he's very angry or like yelling at you. So he said, "Oh, would you want to walk the show?" Da, 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 da. Obviously, I said yes. That would be so amazing. And then he said, "What would you want to wear?" And I said, "Well, I would want to wear something I can't afford." And so when I showed up to the fitting, he had my photo next to this pink dress, which everyone knows pink is my favorite color. So it was very sweet, and I loved his photo when I first tried on the dress at the fitting. He looks so cute.
You look really
So
emotional.
but yeah.
You look amazing.
No, it's beautiful. It has these like big wings. It's like beyond.
Beyond.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, we can go to the next slide.
Next
Sorry.
slide. Oh, okay.
Madonna.
Oh, now you sing. So what song are you going to interpret now? Which one is your favorite
What do you mean?
Madonna song?
Drowned World.
Okay.
Yeah, do you know about Drowned?
Do you know Drowned
Ray
World?
of Light.
That's a Ray of Light album. So good. But I also like Frozen. I like all of Madonna.
All right. So here's Madonna. So tell us the universe. How the universe brings you Madonna?
Through our friend Terry Maxime Loriot, who's a fashion exhibition curator, he said, you have to meet Madonna. And I was like,
course,
okay,
who
like
does not?
obviously everyone wants to meet Madonna. So he introduced us to her stylist, and we really hit it off. And she was like, Madonna's really a big fan of your work, and she like follows you on Instagram and everything. And I'm like, okay, like sure. And so we sent some clothing to her, and she was obsessed. And she didn't want to give it back.
Well, basically, these jeans.
Oh yeah, these cut-up jeans. So Madonna
you got
has
them
them in
back.
like every color. No, we had to make a new pair for Steven because she literally took your pair. Yeah. But it's okay, it's Madonna. But she's obsessed. So she started wearing our clothes, and then her tour came along, and they started asking for costumes to be made for their dancers and all of this. So we were a big part of the celebration tour. Then she came to Paris, and we got tickets because we had costumes in the show, so that was whatever. And as we're in the car going there, they call us and they're like, "Oh, Madonna wants you to go on stage with her."
Wait, what?
I know. And I'm like, "Oh no." And so obviously you don't say no.
You don't say no.
You don't say no. And it was an honor to, represent the queer community on that stage in Paris the first night. So that's here what we did. And then a couple nights later, they said, Madonna wants you to do the opening act.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in Canada, we flew back and DJ'd that same day for 40,000 people.
So how do you go? I mean, Madonna's
No
crowd
one liked it.
is really different from yours, right?
No one liked it. It was like 40,000. It was actually very hard. It was the hardest gig I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Because imagine 40,000 people, the energy of like,
Mm-hmm.
please turn that music off.
Because Madonna told us, she said that she wanted our artistry on her stage, and she wanted us to be ourselves as authentic as possible. So we didn't change our set, we didn't adapt it, we put on like our hardcore music that we always play when we get booked to DJ. And there was definitely a minority of people that liked it, and then there was a majority of people that I think were very confused. I think they even got a bit angry because I think they saw it as noise. You know what I mean? They didn't see it as music. They saw it as just like noise. But in the end, I think it was
very Madonna of us to do that.
Yeah.
To you know, she would have gone up there and done that too. So
Yeah.
she liked it. So
Yeah.
that's all you care about. It's
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
And opening acts are really difficult to handle. All right, next slide, please. Oh, that's
Mr.
from another
Gaultier.
fashion icon, Jean-Paul Gaultier.
So yeah, we worked with Gaultier in Berlin to do some costumes for the Palast Theater, which was an amazing experience. And Gaultier is so kind and funny, and he just has like a childlike spirit. So to have him as a mentor for almost 2 years of work was really, really wonderful. So yeah, we'll definitely cherish those moments forever, for sure.
So as we can see, you've taken the fashion industry officially. So you have Gucci, you have Rick Owens, you have the Vogue recognition, you have the Nick Knight collaboration. So how does it feel at that stage to be part of the fashion scene officially?
I mean, I think for us, maybe our goal isn't necessarily to be part of it, is to create our own space within it. Because, I mean, you know, all these projects that we've done, they were very, you know, catered to what we do. And it was something where these creators, they were coming to us because of what we do versus how we can fit into a specific industry. I think that for us, creating a space where we can express ourselves and be ourselves and do what we want to do is what's super important. I think that that's been always the goal. But in terms of like being part of the industry, I guess we don't really think about that as much as, you know, maybe we should. But in the end, I do think that if we can create a space for people like us to exist in the industry, I think that would be special. And, you know, moving forward with the next projects that we're doing, I think that that's kind of the approach we're going. It's like we're interested in being part of the industry and doing it, but in our own way. And I think, you know, if there's anything, even Rick told us when we first met him, he said, don't compromise. And that's something that I still think that is very important to us.
As you mentioned.
And to be honest, with the industry, you always have to compromise, and they always want you to compromise. They always, you know, we've done projects where people have asked us to take our makeup off and change it and do whatever, and then we look at it and it's like, it's not really us anymore. So we just stick to who we are and what works for us. And
I think that's a bit, anyone out there who's trying to be in this industry or just do your own thing, like it's not all,
It's the secret.
yeah. I think you just have to keep being yourself. Same as Gaultier, same as Rick and Michelle, same as all these amazing creators we look up to. Like they're just being themselves, you know. So I think us too, we're just being ourselves, and if they like it, they like it. But if they don't, who cares?
And to be honest, trends and fashion and all that, it changes constantly. It's a constant movement. And if you're always chasing after that, you're gonna get lost. So in some ways, you also have to stand your ground and
stay focused.
Stay focused and be who you want to be and do that and stick to it and commit to it and foster it and nurture it, and it'll grow. And you won't find yourself in this never-ending chase of trying to fit in.
All right.
Never conform.
Next slide, please. Next one. All right. So, I think this image is now about reclaiming your identity that you have showcased in your first years. So, tell us about your current projects.
So right now we are working with Comme des Garçons and Dover Street Market for our first fashion show for Paris Fashion Week in March 2025. And that's why we came to Paris 2 years ago, is to be a brand. And so this is something really exciting. But it's time for us to reclaim our image and our identity. Show all of them how it's done. So many brands, either intentionally or non-intentionally, have taken so much from us and our community, to be honest. So I think when we show our collection, it'll be a real, honest, and authentic representation of who we are, right?
Yeah, and I think for us what's interesting is that we have an opportunity to express something that truthfully maybe only we can in this community that we're in, you know what I mean? Especially seeing the beginning and being part of that and seeing it how it grows. I think that we're also interested in shaping it in where it's going to go next. And I think that that's super exciting. And I think for us, we've tried our best to engage within the industry as much as we can, and I think that the benefit of that is that we're able to also be understood now, which has been great. You know what I mean? Like Comme des Garçons Dover Street, supporting us and being there for us is also part because I think they believe in what we stand for and what we represent, and the times that we live right now politically, with whatever is happening in America or all over the world. I think more than ever, it's a time to champion alternative minds and champion people from the queer community and protect them and support them. So we're excited to see where the future is, and I think censorship is, like you said earlier, it's hardcore than ever. So I think we're excited to face our fears also, and censorship is one of them. So we're excited to face that.
I think it's also about carrying the torch. Even Gautier, Rick and Michelle, they've opened doors for us to be here on this stage, or even, just to be accepted in this industry because of the many, many years of work that they've done. So for us, it's about taking that torch and carrying it further and further and further, so even more and more and more alternative minds can be a part of this industry.
Fabulous. Last slide. Oh, that's the up and coming.
This is a
signature.
little sneak peek. This is what we're working on. So we'll leave it at this.
Looks beautiful. Yes. All right. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing that journey.